make friends than money. How do I know this and why do I believe it? Because it's essential to how my family survives outside of the rat race. Hi, welcome to Misfit Grit. I'm Kat, and this was formerly a fireside chat with Kat. Today we're going to talk about pigs, pickles, and paradigm shift. Let's get into it. So here is 5 gallons worth of pickles. And about a week and a half ago, some friends of ours got a hold of me last minute, and they have a market garden, and they said, "Hey Kat, we have a bunch of pickles, cucumbers. Would you like them?" And I said yes, I would. We're not having a great pickle year here up in the Keweenaw. It's been a cold, damp summer, and for whatever reason, might be the fact that we haven't weeded the pickle patch very well, or it could be the weather, just not a lot of pickles. In fact, all we're putting up so far this week is the 1 quart of sun pickles. So when our friends offered this, I didn't know it was going to be this many cucumbers, I said yes. And we went and picked it up, and it also provided a couple of gallons worth of salad cucumbers, as well as plenty for the sheep and the pigs. That's what friendship is. That's how we build community, and that's how we have a paradigm shift. So a few years ago when I met this family, the grandfather of this family, it's a multi-generational family, and we do a lot of bartering and pairing up together on projects. The grandfather of this family made a comment to my husband, and he said, "It's better to make friends than money." And this was in regards to some sort of barter or trade. I think my husband did some mechanic work for them, and we tend to help each other out as two families with the same values. Now, that doesn't mean that we agree on everything. In fact, we're actually radically different in our belief systems. They are a conservative Christian family with a certain sect of belief, and we are not. But we accept each other, and we cherish that friendship. And they're one of our most cherished families that we know up here. So it is better to make friends than money. What if we all thought that way? What could it bring us? What if instead of competing, we cooperated? Well, let's talk about that a little bit as we go and check out these pigs. I have some oversized cucumbers that the kids picked this morning when we did our measly little jar. And we're going to go feed them to the pigs, and we're going to talk about a paradigm shift. And I'll show you what 5 gallons of sun pickles look like, and I'll put the recipe down below. This is the only cucumber pickle that I make for like almost 10 years now. This is the only one I do. I do not can pickles because they just turn out like mush. I put them in, usually I put them into jars, but because there was so much, I put them into this 5-gallon bucket, and they last. And we really enjoy cheese and pickle sandwiches, which is a dill pickle, cheddar cheese, and mayonnaise on some good bread. Gotta try it. So there we go. Lots of dill on top. You gotta have your dill. So that's 5 gallons. All right, we'll head over to the piggery. So since we're talking about pickles and we're walking through the garden, I will show you my bean tunnel, which I have been making dilly beans. And those are pretty darn yummy, and I'm quite pleased because this is the first time I've grown beans since moving up to the Keweenaw 5 years ago. And it's just really pretty in here, so let's check it out. Oh, look at all these beans. There's just so many beans. We have 2 different varieties. We have these purple ones. I forget the name, but they're purple. And then we have some green ones. Also forget the name. I think one of them was a Cherokee runner bean. Maybe it was the purple. So they're really pretty. And now that I'm in here, I realize that I will be pickling this weekend because we are in Beantown. pretty good stuff here. Okay, so let's talk about a paradigm shift. What does that mean? That's like how people think about what they do, why they do it. What does it mean? What factors into their reality and their decision making? I would love to see a paradigm shift. And this goes into creating counterculture, which is something that I was discussing in the last video that I made. Because in order to create a paradigm shift, you have to be willing to participate in a counterculture. And the paradigm shift I'm talking about is one of reciprocity, egalitarianism, matriarchal leadership, not trying to dominate over one another. Very different than what we see in Western culture, and particularly the United States. Oh, we are desperately in need of a paradigm shift. There are a lot of us who are doing this work. Sometimes we get suppressed. We often get told that we're crazy. We don't know what we're talking about. We're dangerous. Maybe we're crazy. Oh, said that one twice. Guess it's come up quite a bit for me. We get told these things a lot, but that doesn't mean that the work we're doing isn't real or valuable. In fact, it means that it's threatening to the powers that be because they are clenching with their egos so tightly to what they have. So some examples of paradigm shifting would be people who are engaging in healing work. Maybe that's through herbal medicine. Maybe it's through metaphysical healing, spiritual healing, and that realm I'm new to. I'm pretty good with my herbal medicines, but I'm really interested in the spiritual and metaphysical healing that I believe we need. I am a healer myself, and I believe I was chosen by my ancestors to heal many generations of unprocessed trauma. And herbs isn't going to cut it all. I got to do some deep work here. So those are examples of healers. We've arrived at the piggery. Other examples might be having home birth, having a free birth, maybe no midwife at all, just you and your trusted partner or a friend, someone, things like that, staying out of the industrialized medical system, which harms mothers and children and families so deeply. And I do have stories about that. Other examples would be localized healthy food systems. The way that we get our food, the way that we treat the animals, the earth, and the workers. So often overlooked is the workers whose hands create the food that we eat. Another example would be mutual aid and systems set up in communities where we share skills, maybe tools, maybe resources. And that's not encouraged in the United States. It actually was back when, I believe it was post or before World War II, and there was a much larger immigrant population and who kind of, stuck together and helped each other out in a village sort of way. And that was completely discouraged after World War II. And the companies that had been making the weapons in World War II were like, no, we need to sell every single family their own individual item. Otherwise, they're not doing America correctly. And it's worked wonderfully, right? Like here we are. Every single person has to have their own lawnmower, their own snowblower, their own chainsaw, their own tractor, or they're just not doing it right. What if we shared? It can be done. We do it. We share lots of things. We don't all need to have these bloated toy boxes. We don't all need to raise our children individually in homes. We can share that burden. We can come up with all kinds of creative ways of working together instead of competing with our neighbors or our family members. Wouldn't that be lovely? Here, let's throw them a pickle. They're waiting so patiently. We have to step over an electric fence here so we don't get the coyotes in. All right, piggies. Oh, they're getting big, eh? There you go. There you go. Oh, oh. There you go. One for you too. One for you too. They're getting big. So another one would be school systems. And my family does, we homeschool our kids and we do a fair amount of unschooling. And there's lots of really awesome alternative methods to the industrialized school system that we have in the United States. And that's so cool. And there's new ideas and great people popping up all the time. That's another paradigm shift. Kids don't have to be in a seated classroom for 40 hours a week just so mom and dad can go generate income for the shareholders. We can do things differently. So those are just a few examples of the paradigm shifts that are possible, and there are so many more. I'm just giving you like a handful that I participate in, and I could come up with a whole bunch more, I'm sure. I would love to hear, what are you seeing locally? What is happening in your community? What type of shift are you doing? One thing that I've been participating in is a matriarchal leadership course. Now, matriarchal leadership is different than patriarchal leadership. Certainly there's room for men. That's not what matriarchal leadership is. It means holding the whole, creating space for everyone, for who they are, in cooperation instead of domination. Patriarchal leadership is very different. It is rooted in domination, and that's a whole other topic. We're all quite familiar with what that looks like. And matriarchal leadership, I would argue, as well as many other lovely people would say, we desperately need in this time of such utter destruction of our planet, of our species even. We've really come to a terrible point. So that's another paradigm shift that's possible. How do we lead? How do we hold space for those of us who are doing work? It might not be loud, brash work. We might not be able to compete with technology very savvy, but damn are we good at what we do. We provide food for our families or care for our neighbors, all sorts of things that is so needed. And a lot of it is traditional women's work. But of course anyone can do it, any gender, and we welcome that. Oh. I call them all fatty bread. Fatty breads. So not only has the family that I spoke about earlier provided my family with pickles for the year, but they also are providing us with a dairy cow. And we did it through bartering pork last year. They received, I think, 2 pigs, and we butchered them up together, processed them up together, and in return, we get a dairy cow, and she's still down at their farm. She's been a little slow to get bred. The bull is not interested so far, but we're hopeful she'll be bred this fall, and then she'll come up here, and that will provide a huge source of food, and I argue wealth, to my family, because having dairy on site means that we have protein, and we can turn grass into butter. And I don't know if you've ever been a nursing mama, but I value butter like some people value gold. So I will I'm very excited for this cow to arrive. And like I said in the beginning, it is so much better to make friends than money. Unfortunately, we all need some money. That's the system. We can't get out of it completely. But we can find workarounds and we can create paradigm shifts. And I would love to hear what you're seeing. I would love to get connected with people who are doing this work. Wherever you are in the world, it's really great to hear what's happening because it gives us all a lot of hope. And we need it right now. We really do. And our time is coming. All right, folks. I'm going to get back. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please like, subscribe, share all that stuff. It really does help. This is how we create a paradigm shift, right? Get this out to other people. So take care, and we'll talk soon. P.S. Not only did I want to show you this really interesting mushroom, which I don't know what it is, but it's growing in my garden off of this old pine stump. But I forgot to mention that this paradigm shift work often takes generations. This isn't something that we're just gonna poof, get it done with overnight. And it's really not work that's cut out for the faint of heart because it takes grit and tenacity, and it takes being able to withstand the masses saying, oh, you just can't do that. That's not how it's done. You're crazy. Right, we already talked about that. So this is work that we begin today, perhaps, that may not see itself through in our lifetime, but we can be the seed that is planted to help future generations live a better life. All right. Anyone know what this is? It's a couple weeks old at this point. Kind of funky. See you next time.